Welcome to the Palmeca Remexis tutorial series. In this tutorial, we will discuss Stage 3 of implant planning, measuring and placing a virtual implant. Now that we have our nerve already marked, now we can go ahead and do some measurements in our cross-sectional slices to get an idea of what type of implant we'd like to place. So what I'm going to do is change my layout from the 5 by 2 rows to just 5 by 1 row. Click on Done. Use my slider bar at the top of the cross-sectional to move my cross-sectional slices where I want the implant to be placed. Then I'm going to go up to my top toolbar and I'm going to, under the measure section, I'm going to click on the icon for measure length. I'm going to come and select the top ridge of the mandibular canal. Now please be aware that the marking tool is strictly just a tool to help identify the mandibular canal. It cannot identify it for you. So measuring to the actual colored marker itself may not be the true measurement to the actual mandibular canal. It's up to you as the operator of the software to identify the mandibular canal and assess its size appropriately and do the appropriate measurement for it. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to go just above the ridge of the mandibular canal there and click, hold, drag. This is a left mouse click. Get myself some measurements on a few of the planes so I can get an idea of what measurement I want to, of what size implant I'd like to put in here. Looks like my smallest length is about a 13 millimeter implant, depending on which slice plane I'm taking it at. So now I have my length. I can also do a cross-section measurement, cross-sectional measurement. Again, I'm just using the left mouse button, click, drag, release. Okay. So now I get an estimation of what size implant I'd like to have in there. Now, if you do not have the implant library in the software, then measurement is probably where you want to stop at. But you probably want to keep these measurements. So what we can do now that we have the measurements up on the screen is we can go ahead and save these as 2D snapshots that you can put into a patient record or that you could print out. To do that, we're going to go up to the top toolbar under Output, and we're going to click on the icon that says Save to 2D View. Click on that once. Now we can select what we don't want. So we click on what we don't want, and we can click on what we do. So we take away, I'm going to take away these two. I want to keep my pseudopan, and I want to keep my 5 cross-sectionals. Now, right now, by default, it's checked as Create a Single Image. So when I click OK, these two will be put together as one single JPEG, or one single snapshot, I should say, image. I'm going to go ahead and select the options for color image. And I'm going to go ahead and uncheck to create single so I can keep these as two independent snapshots. I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. It'll render and save the images, and it will save them into our imaging module. So notice now we're in the imaging module. We have our pseudopan, and we have our 5 cross-sectionals with the measurements. So at this time, I can either export them as a JPEG, TIFF, PNG, JPEG 2000, bitmap, GIF, wherever I want to put them, and they'll export as each one as its own individual file. Or if I wanted to print them, I can click on the print editor icon, take them into the print editor. Since they're independent images, I can adjust them on the screen at will just by clicking and dragging them around, getting what layout I want, and then going up and clicking on the print to finalize the print and go ahead and print them out as a hard copy. Once you have your hard copies saved and your 2D images saved, you can go back over to the left and click on the 3D imaging, and this will bring you back to our cross-sectional screen with our pseudopan with all of our measurements. Now, if you have the implant module, you can go ahead and do a virtual implant placement now. To do that, I'm going to first remove my measurements that are in the screen. To do that, I go up under the view section on the top toolbar, and there's an icon for delete view. I'm going to click on this icon, and here's the list of all of the measurements that I've placed. If I click on them one at a time, the measurements will be deleted from view. Okay. Now, to do a virtual implant placement, I'm going to go over to the right-hand side under my implant module. I am going to go to the icon that has the implant library. Click on that. This will bring up my implant library. This is the current library available. I can pick whatever brand implant that I want to work with. For today's purposes, I'm just going to grab the Zimmer implant. I'm going to go ahead and grab a screw vent. So here's the model, here's the length, and here's the diameter of the implant. So I'm going to go ahead and select the implant that I want. I'm going to go ahead and select this model. Go ahead and click on Add to Plan. Now I have a rectangle on the screen, a cylinder basically. I can either place that cylinder in one of my cross sections, or I can place it up here on my pseudopan rendering. I'm just going to come here and I'm going to place this right on the pseudopan. Now my implant's placed. Now I can come down to my cross sectionals. I can change the angulation of the implant. I can click with the left mouse key and drag the implant around to place it and fit it where I want it to be. I can also change the angulation of the implant and also move it around in the panoramic view. Now I get to see how the implant is sitting. I can drag this around to make sure all my slices are covering the entire range for the implant. And also notice that I can see the virtual placement in three-dimensional space and the volumetric rendering of the implant. If I wanted to see this more maximized, I can click on Maximize in the upper right, toggle zoom, enable that, and then I can use my scroll wheel to scroll back. And now I can see the implant as it sits and relates to the anatomy. Once I'm done assessing that, I can just click on Restore and come back to my original view. And now I have my virtual implant placement. Again, if I wanted to keep these as 2D snapshots, I can, just by clicking on Save to 2D View, Color Image. I'm going to unselect the single, remove what I don't want, keep what I do, let it save it to the imaging module, and now I also now have them with the implant being placed, colorized. And again, I can print these with the print editor, or I can export them as individual files for emailing purposes, placing into PowerPoint presentations, so forth. And that will complete implant planning.